Somewhere I Belong, Chapter 2, New Surroundings. Isaac sat alone at a window seat, away from the group of mares that were sitting a few rows behind him. They huddled together and began to discuss their plan. "Okay, so what should we do about our guest?" Rarity asked. "He doesn't seem that scary or mean," Pinky said with a smile. "I don't know, Pinky. He seems kind of weird," Rainbow said. "Well, imagine how he feels. Thrown into a world he has no connection to, surrounded by strange creatures, and the only one of his kind," Twilight added. The other ponies averted their eyes. "All I'm saying is we should at least give him a chance before we outcast him." "You sure, Twilight? Think about it. We've finally reached another form of intelligent life. There's so much to learn," she said in a happy voice. "Yeah, who knows? He could have some really interesting stories," Pinky added. "Well, we ain't gonna find anything out sitting on our flanks, now are we?" Applejack interjected. "Okay, so who's going first?" Rarity asked. The ponies averted their gaze. Rainbow then stood up. "I volunteer Twilight." "I second that," Applejack said. "What? Why me?" "You're the smartest one here, and you've held a conversation lasting more than 5 minutes with him," Rarity said. "Fine," she said reluctantly. She got to her feet and walked over to his seat. She quickly hurried back to her friends. "He's sleeping. I'm sure that there will be plenty of time to talk to him once we reach Ponyville," she said as she breathed a sigh as the others shrugged and sat back down. "Last stop, Ponyville," the conductor announced over the loudspeaker. Twilight hung her head as she and the others got to their feet. When they reached his seat, they found that he had already left the train and was waiting for them outside. The 6 of them hurried up to him. He put his hood on and looked at them with a blank stare. "So this is Ponyville," he said as he looked at the small town. "Yeah, I guess we'll show you around then," Twilight said as she took the lead. Isaac noticed that the mares were only about an inch or so shorter than him. He didn't dwell on it as he walked through the small town. They stopped in front of a massive tree that looked hollowed out into a house. "This is a library. You'll be staying with me for the time being," Twilight said in a nervous tone. He nodded, and the ponies continued through the town, keeping silent as they stopped in front of a pink building that had the smell of baked goods secreting from it. Oh, this is Sugar Cube Corner, the local bakery where I work," Pinky said with a smile. As they began to walk inside, Isaac was bombarded by a light green blur. He got to his feet. He noticed that it was a mint green unicorn that had a lyre tattoo on her shoulder. "I'm terribly sorry. I was so lost in thought that I didn't see where I was going," she said as she rubbed the back of her head. Isaac offered to help her up. The mare took his hand and got to her feet. "No, it was my fault. Just goes to show what happens when you stop moving in front of a building." "Thanks. My name is Lyra Hart." She stopped as a gust of wind blew his hood off the top of his head to reveal his complexion. Lyra's jaw dropped in surprise. "Okay, this is going to sound completely crazy, but you look like a human." "Well, I should, considering I am one," he said as he brushed the dirt off his pants. Lyra's face contorted, and she began to hyperventilate. "You all right there, miss?" She then collapsed on the ground. Isaac knelt down and tried to nudge her awake. Twilight and the others soon came out to see where he was. "What happened?" she asked as she looked at him. "I don't know. 1 minute I'm talking to her, and then the next she's down on the ground." The ponies looked at the mare and let out a synchronized, "Oh!" Lyra's eyes snapped open to see that the human was looking down at her with a raised eyebrow. "You all right?" The mare suddenly jumped to her feet and began to cheer. I knew it! I knew humans existed," she yelled. Yeah, I'm surprised you know about..." He was cut off as the mare put her hands on his face. "It's all there. The furless skin, the small patch of hair on the head, everything I've described in my writings. I was right." "Please let go of my face," he said in an annoyed tone. "Oh, sorry," she said as she let go. Isaac rubbed his face that was now red from the mare's grip. "Thank you. Now who are you?" "Oh my gosh, a human wants to know my name?" "I'm Lyra Heartstrings," she said as she outstretched a hand. "Nice to meet you. I'm Isaac," he said as he shook it. The mare squeaked in delight. "That's it? No last name?" "Well, my last name is unpronounceable to most people." "Try me." As he told her his last name, someone dropped a dish inside the restaurant. Lyra looked back at him in surprise. "Wow, you're right. Weird name." "Yep, don't sweat it." I still can't believe I'm talking to a human. I have so many questions. Twilight then jumped into the conversation. Easy there, Lyra. He just got into town, Twilight said. You'll have plenty of time to interrogate him after he gets settled. Totally fine. Do you have a phone? She said as she turned back to him. Yeah, but I'm not sure if it'll work here, he said as he lifted the device up. Lyra took it from him, and her horn began to glow. The phone began to shine and move in her palm. She handed it back to him. Try it. He scrolled down to Lyra's entry and pressed the talk button. He heard her phone ring in her pocket. Sweet, I'll call you later, she said as she ran off in the other direction. He stood there with a confused look on his face. What just happened? Lyra just gave you her phone number, Twilight said. How did that work? Oh, right, magic. He tried to call Mason or Allie's number, but got nothing but static. Well, I gotta go to work, Rainbow said as she took flight. I best get back to Big Mac. He'll need a hand with the apples. I'd best go as well. I still have that order to fill for that pony in Manhattan. I had better go and check on Angel. I'd love to stay, but the cakes need me to work the counter. The ponies all left, except for Twilight, who let out a heavy sigh at her abandonment. Well, that was quick, he commented. Come on, I'll show you the library, she said in a grumble. Isaac pulled his hood over his head and followed the lavender mare back to the tree. Spike! Spike! She called out as they entered the library. Suddenly, a teenage-sized purple lizard came running down the stairs. What's up, Twi? Ah, zombie! He yelled as he looked at the human. Spike, how many times have I told you there's no such thing as zombies? She yelled. He's just a human, she said as she rolled her eyes. Twilight, do not joke about zombies around me, okay? Twilight and Spike looked at him in shock. You believe in zombies too? The tiny purple lizard asked. Oh, yeah. Good grief, you two are unbelievable, Twilight said as she face-palmed. Look, Twilight, there are two kinds of people in the world. Those who have a plan when zombies take over the world, and those who don't. I call the last people meat shields, he said as he walked over to the couch. Who is he anyway? He said as he pointed to the scaled one. I'm Spike, Twilight's #1 assistant. So you're a lizard, I'm guessing. No, I'm a dragon. Really? I guess it makes as much sense as everything else in this crazy world. He breathed out. Name's Isaac, by the way. Nice to meet you. He's going to be staying with us for a while. I need you to get the guest room ready, she said as she looked at Spike, who nodded and quickly hurried up the stairs. Twilight then turned to him and raised the eyebrow. What? Sorry, just still getting used to the fact that there's another creature living with me, she said in a low tone. I can kinda see that. Can I ask something? Sure. You and your friends are all girls, right? Yeah, why? She said as she glared at him. Just making sure so I don't say anything offensive. Plus, I haven't seen many guys around. I'm assuming you call them stallions. Yes, and there are stallions around. Most of them are just at work. Alright then. I'm gonna go walk around town for a bit, he said as he got to his feet. What? Since I'm going to be staying here for a while, I figured I should familiarize myself with the town. She looked at him with a concerned look on her face. I promise I won't cause any trouble. Scout's honor, he said as he raised his right hand. Fine, just be back here in an hour, okay? Deal. As he walked out the door, he let out a small snicker. Like I'm a scout, he said in a sarcastic tone. He flipped his hood over his head and began to walk into town. Let me go. Isaac looked over to see a gray Pegasus mare with blonde hair being harassed by two stallions. Why should we? The red stallion said as he ripped her messenger bag out of her hands and threw it to the ground, and spilling what looked like letters. Just leave me alone, she pleaded. Shut up, the blue stallion said as he slapped her across her face. Hey! Isaac bellowed as he walked over to the group. There a problem here? He said as he glared at the Pegasi. None of your business, the red one yelled as he raised his hand. Isaac caught it and stepped in between the stallions and the mare. You got some nerve. How about picking on someone your own size? He said as he flipped the stallion over his back. He slammed him against the ground and delivered a quick jab to his face. The blue stallion aimed for his head. Isaac dodged it and delivered a quick uppercut to the Pegasus, sending him to the ground. The two stallions got to their feet and backed away from the hooded stranger. Beat it, he barked. The stallions complied and walked away from the two. Isaac turned around and saw that the mare's eyes were off-center. Her golden eyes looked at him in amazement. Isaac crouched down and began to help her put the letters back in her bag. You okay? Yeah. Why were those guys giving you trouble? Oh, because my eyes are different, she said as a few tears escaped her eyes. There's nothing wrong with being different, he said as he put a hand on her shoulder. How would you know? She said in a low tone. Isaac removed his hood. The mayor let out a gasp at his appearance. Oh, trust me, I know, he said as he helped her to her feet. My name's Isaac. What's yours? It's Ditsy-Doo, but some call me Derpy. Well, it's nice to meet you, Ditsy, he said as he shook the mayor's hand. Hey, do you have a phone? Isaac nodded and gave her the device. She pressed a few buttons and handed it back to him. Here's my number. Call me if you want to hang out sometime.